Hello my beautiful friends, it's Amanda here and today we're talking all about the LORAC Mega Pro 4 palette. I'm going to do swatches of the entire palette, I'm going to give you all the product info, and I also have not one but two different eye looks with this palette. So let's just get started because there's a lot to talk about. The Mega Pro 4 retails for $59. It is available at Ulta. The packaging this year is pink. It does have that matte feeling, although compared to my other LORAC palettes, it doesn't feel quite as like sticky. I don't know if that's the right word. It definitely feels a bit smoother. It feels like it'll be easier to clean up. So I'm very happy about that because it is this nice pastel pink color. It has 32 eyeshadow shades. It has a mixture of finishes, matte, satin, shimmer, and there are one or two shades in there that look a little bit glittery. I'm going to show you finger and brush swatches of all the shades. I'll just be using the back of my hand, and for my brush swatches I'll use my e.l.f. flat eyeshadow brush, and I'll clean off in between each shade using my Vera Mona color switch. As with all my swatch videos, the finger swatches will be on top and then the brush swatches will be below. Now that we've done the swatches, I'm gonna jump into the two different eye looks I created using this palette. There is such a huge variety of shades in here that I felt that doing just one eye look really wasn't doing justice to this palette. So I'm gonna show you those two tutorials and then I'll wrap up all my thoughts at the end. I'm starting off like I always do with my favorite eye base. It's the MAC Paint Pot in the shade Painterly. And then I'm gonna set that eye base with a mixture of two shadows. I'm using Cool Taupe and Butterscotch mixed together just to set that eye base and give me a nice smooth canvas to work on. Then for my transition shade, I'm using another mixture. This time I'm taking Oat and Plum, mixing those together and then sweeping that all through the crease. I'm going to be mixing a lot of shadows on my eyes today, so I know I wanted a transition shade, but I wanted something really light and a little bit neutral. Now I'm going to use the shade Blackberry. This is a very pigmented shade. I have just the tiniest bit on my brush and I'm really getting a lot of color payoff here. Just working that in and blending it out. You just need the tiniest bit of shadow with these deep shades. Next, for my all over lid color, I'm using Lotus and I'm just applying that with my fingertip and sweeping it all over the lid from the inner corner out to where that Blackberry shade is. Then I'm going to use Oat again and I'm just putting a little bit of that on my lower lash line to help balance out the look. Now I'm so excited, I'm using the shade Unicorn again on my finger, patting that on top, and it's a very transformative shade. It really took that shade Lotus in a lot cooler direction, so I'm adding Vamp on top. I just wanted something a little cooler and a little more shimmery on that outer corner. I decided I wanted a little bit more of that Lotus shade, so I just applied that with my finger right on the inner corner. and added a little mascara onto curled lashes, and that finishes off my first look. I really wanted to show the range of this palette, so this is a cool toned, colorful, but still wearable look. Now moving on to a second look with this palette. I'm prepping my eyes in the exact same way. I used my MAC Painterly paint pot, and then I set that base with a mixture of Cool Taupe and Butterscotch. Now for my transition shade, I'm using something a little bit deeper this time. This is the shade Mocha. It's a very warm medium brown, and it is so beautiful. It's a perfect warm brown transition shade for me. Next, I'm moving on to the outer corner of the eye. I'm using a mixture of mahogany and spice, and this combination is so beautiful. I could not get over how much I love these two shades mixed together. Then for my all over lid shade, I'm using Honey, which is a beautiful light gold, and I just applied that with the finger. Now I'm going to use another mixture. This time I'm taking Butterscotch and the shade Mocha, and I'm using that to blend out the crease a little bit, and I'm also going to apply that all across my lower lash line. Then for my inner corner highlight, I'm using the shade Foam. This is so bright and so beautiful. I love a pop-in inner corner, and Foam is really doing it for me. Then I just curled my lashes and added a little bit of L'Oreal Lash Paradise mascara. This is basically my perfect fall look. It's warm, it's shimmery, and it was so easy to pull off. I'm obsessed. Long story short, this palette is literally everything. If you've seen any of my other LORAC palette reviews, you'll know I love the Pro Formula eyeshadows. I do think they are probably the best eyeshadows on the market. They are extremely pigmented, very soft, very blendable. The only issue is because they are so soft and pigmented, they do have quite a bit of fallout. As long as you're careful, take your time, tap off your brush after you dip into the pan, you will not be disappointed. As far as this particular palette goes, like I said, there's everything in here. There's pastels, there's jewel tones, there's mattes, there's shimmers, there's glitters, there's one that's like a duochrome, there's warm, there's cool, there's everything you could ever want in this palette. I do think you could probably get hundreds of different looks using these 32 shadows. I haven't watched any other reviews on this palette yet. I try not to watch reviews before I do my own reviews so that I don't get swayed by what anybody else says. I can imagine that some people think that this shade selection is a little crazy. Some people are probably gonna think that, you know, there's too much, there's too many different colors, there's too many different tones. And to be completely honest with you, when I saw pictures of this palette before I had my hands on it, I was kind of thinking that same thing. But I think when it comes to these larger palettes, it's sort of like you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. If this was all one shade, all neutral, all warm tones, everybody would say, I have that, I've seen that, I have that a million times over. So personally, I love that they're trying to do something different. With all these holiday palettes coming out, all the big brands do tend to put out these really massive eyeshadow palettes. I think in general, in my opinion, a lot of those palettes tend to be either too boring or too crazy, and they kind of seem repetitive year after year. And typically, not always, not shading anybody, but typically those palettes aren't really up to par quality wise. That is not the case with this palette. The quality is insane. The pigmentation is great. I mean, you saw the swatches. These, every single shadow applies well with the finger and with the brush. And it's not just in swatch. They work well on the eyes, they perform well. I'm absolutely crazy about the LORAC palettes. I don't think you'll be disappointed. I think this palette is a great investment, whether you are a collector like myself and you like to get them every year, Or if you're somebody that doesn't have a lot of eyeshadow palettes, this is a great way to get some variety. You can definitely create really, really wearable, kind of work appropriate everyday looks. You can go more smoky, sultry, date night, and you can even get some really fun pops of color. I think you can do everything with this palette. The Mega Pro is something that I anticipate for holiday. It's always something I love from holiday. This year is no exception. In all honesty, these kind of pastel shades are not something I really gravitate towards. These kind of blues and greens, not something I usually love, but I kind of like that about this palette. I like that it's keeping me comfortable with a lot of these neutrals. This shade called Spice I love, and I'm definitely going to be able to work in some of these other shades that are not things I typically use, not things I typically buy. I love it, but I always want to hear your thoughts. Please let me know what you think of this palette. Did you order it? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Leave a comment and let us know. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye. Calm down. Okay. I love my eyeshadow so much right now. I need to clean my brushes, people. Need to clean my brushes. It's been a hot minute. Being a bad example right now. What shades do I want to use on my eyeballs? Unicorns! Gonna put unicorns on my eyeballs. Ooh, 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 ooh. Oh my gosh, I love it so much. Why is it so good? Oh, it's so good. Oh my gosh. Seriously? Seriously? I love it. 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 Oh baby. Oh, oh baby. It's good. So happy right now. Zoom it in. Just zoom it in. Oh yeah. Calm down now, babe. Calm down. Why am I so awkward? I film YouTube videos constantly and I still feel like the most awkward person. Coke Zero still hasn't sponsored any of my videos, but here's to hoping. The end.